Joining me now is travel expert Jim Byers. Jim, thanks as always for joining us.
Anytime, Rod.
Now, with this situation, a lot of people try to figure out what to do next. What can travelers do in this situation?
Well, you're supposed to get, you can always get a refund, of course, if your flight is canceled. Clearly you weren't able to fly and it's not your fault. So refund should not be a problem down the road. But that doesn't help someone who's trying to get out to Calgary to, their lifelong trip to Banff or get to a friend's wedding in California, whatever it may be, Roger. So there's not a lot they can do at this point. An airline is supposed to get someone rebooked on their own airline within, I think, 48 hours. But there aren't any. There's no aircraft.
Hmm.
WestJet is down to, I think, 30 aircraft out of several hundred, maybe five or seven, 600 or 700 aircraft that they've got in total. So you've got only a small percentage of planes even available. So it's unlikely WestJet's going to have much space. Most airlines are pretty packed these days. So even if you wanted to get on an Air Canada flight or Air North or whatever it may be, a Porter Airlines, you might not be able to do that. So I think options for people are extremely limited. And at this point, I think you're looking at kind of a lost weekend, I'm afraid, and it's heartbreaking.
Now, if you have to book on, if you are one of the people that's had their flights canceled, upwards of 50,000 now, and you buy a flight you buy a different flight and it costs you more, can you go after WestJet for the difference in the flights or no?
I'm not an expert on all those little nuances of the laws. I know the laws in Canada, Roger, aren't anywhere near as strong as they are in Europe. European laws are very strict about, refunds within a couple of hours and penalties that airlines pay even if they're only a few hours late. I don't think in this case, I don't believe, I could be wrong, but I don't believe that consumers would be able to say, oh, WestJet, I had to spend another $1,000 on a Porter ticket or a Transat ticket or what have you. I don't think that they're going to be covered for that sort of thing. If they can get WestJet to pay for their hotel, I would say good luck. I'm not sure how that's going to work for all of these people stranded, but this is something that's going to be going on for months and months, if not years. Last time I looked, the Canadian group that looks after all of these airline complaints was already backlogged with thousands and thousands of complaints from COVID. Now we're going to be looking at a situation where they're going to be doubling their work because of the WestJet strike.
And what do people do if they have flights booked for, say, next week with WestJet and they're looking and thinking, can they cancel, or do they run the risk of losing their money on that?
That's such a judgment call, and at this point, I would certainly be looking for options. I mean, you have to think that this has to end fairly soon. I haven't heard anything yet about when arbitration is going to restart or when arbitration will begin between the two sides. It doesn't appear that they're talking. It doesn't appear that they have much in common at all right now. So arbitration is going to take a considerable amount of time, and the clock is starting to tick even for travel next week. Calgary Stampede is supposed to start next Friday, and I'm sure people in Calgary are already worried about that. But in terms of whether you decide to rebook or not, I think it would be wise. I wouldn't necessarily count on WestJet being available. Maybe by the end of the week, but even if they were to resolve this tomorrow, it's going to take them a while to get their planes up and running again. You can't just flick a switch and get a whole fleet of aircraft moving again.
And then, of course, when they do get it up and running, they already have all those flights booked anyways. A lot of them are probably full because we're smack dab in the middle of summer.
Absolutely. So it's going to be, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be going on for several days, and it's just heartbreaking. You see these pictures of, this little 4-year-old boy who was supposed to be going to the Bahamas, and he's sitting on his suitcase and crying, and you just think, oh, it's people going to Mexico, people going to funerals, people going to weddings. It's a really tough time. We haven't seen this before. I've been covering travel for a long time in this country, and I've never seen this sort of a job action. And it's interesting, even on social media, Roger, there are a lot of people blaming the airline. There's a lot of people blaming the union, but a lot of people are supporting the union as well. So there's a real division out there.
Okay, Jim, thank you as always for your insight.
Anytime.
Jim Byers is our travel expert.